Hey y'all, I'm Bethany. Can y'all hear me okay? I'm not doing the disco mic. Okay, cool. Oh, that's fair. I will project. I am a co-founder and CEO of Compaas. We are a San Francisco-based startup, and what we do is we work on technology to help companies be really great at compensation, which means I've just jumped my yes. We help companies make compensation their strategic advantage. That is what we do. That is our passion. We are venture-backed. Here are some of our investors. I like to call this our NASCAR slide. Because my co-founder and I are both engineers, and we've both been founders before. My last company was acquired by Facebook. Her last company was acquired by StubHub. We sometimes are talking to people in HR tech in particular, and they ask us, why are you doing compensation? Why is this your thing? And when it comes down to it, we wanted to work on the hardest problems we could find to work on. The hardest problem in tech is people. The hardest version of that is money, and that is why we're working on comp. So we also learned that compensation is, we thought it would be a lot of fancy math. That's what we thought. And if you are a company operator who's been in it for a long time, or you're an HR professional, or you've been through this, you know that I was wrong. We were wrong. This is not actually how it goes. It's not that there isn't fancy math. It's that comp is an art much more than a science. And the more we dug in, the more we realized that the tools that were available to help companies deal and manage with their biggest operating expense were just grossly terrible. They were terrible, pretty much uniformly. You were in spreadsheets, that's what you were doing. We think we can do better for you. All of this data is living in different sources of truth. And all of the different sources of truth in the HR tech stack don't really talk to each other very well. So you have data everywhere, but the opportunity for insights and the insights themselves, that's pretty scarce. So we thought, what if there was a better way? Because we're product people. What if you could get out of spreadsheets, and what if you could bring all of that information together in a way that actually tells you something useful instead of just a bunch of spreadsheets that make everybody angry? So I think the best thing for me to do is show you what we did. So the way that Compaas works is we integrate with, and I'm going to put on my reading glasses at this point, so that's a bit telling. Heads up, y'all. So the way that Compaas works is we connect with your existing HR tech stack. We connect with your payroll system, HRIS system, stock administration system. Stock is a big part of what we bring to the table. And once we bring all of those things together, we're able to help you reconcile all of the sources of truth together and understand how they relate to each other when it comes to complex total compensation, because how you pay people matters. Compensation is culture. So the first thing that we have on our dashboard, this dashboard just got updated today. Oh, that's the thing. This is our, we came out of beta exactly 1 year ago today. It is our anniversary. So this is our anniversary refresh on our dashboard. So it looks a little different than the one I did yesterday, but y'all will be cool with that, I think. So what we do is, the first thing we do is we bring together a bunch of different insights. And what we have here is there are different things we show by default. What we find in your data, we will change as people join the company, people leave the company, because we stay connected with all of these systems. So we're able to help you see how trends change as your people join and leave the company. We change these cards out as we see different trends that happen inside your org. We also have a way to, I'd like to apologize to anybody who's here in HR on behalf of my people, by the way, because I've been that head of engineering who came to you demanding that you just tell me how much are we spending on engineering. I didn't know it was so hard. It shouldn't be this hard, and now with Compaas it isn't. We're able to actually tell you how much you're spending on engineering. One thing that I want to show you in here, I'm showing you the tiniest amount of Compaas. We do a ton of stuff. But I can click in here and I can get more information about who are these salespeople in my super fake company. Some of the data will show how super fake it is. And I can click in and get more information about this person. This is where their salary range is, when they started. I can even write notes to future me about things about this person so I can remember what's going on with Tatiana. We also want you to see things like, are you paying new employees more than you're paying your employees from a few years ago? The answer is often yes. Who's on the high side, who's on the low side. This is my big tell, by the way, that this is a fake company, because yes, I know human resources is never above band. And then this is what my co-founder, Lisa, calls the baby boomer curve for a company, which is how you start to discover where you have organizations, where you have groups of people that are going to hit major equity vesting thresholds coming up. Right now, it's very difficult to discover which team is going to get hit hard by a bunch of people vesting out all at once, and we want to make that easy for you so you can control the conversation and the cadence of that conversation. This will look familiar to people who have done like HR and comp stuff. We loved learning about compa ratios, and if you're not a comp nerd, sorry, I'm going to take you there for a second. The thing about compa ratios is that they tell you based on the range of how much somebody is supposed to be paid, the target range, where are they in that range? It's all about cash, okay? We also do something pretty spectacular, because my co-founder is a way better engineer than me. We do an equity-adjusted compensation analysis, where what we do is we look at what the value is of how much stock somebody is going to be receiving investing in a year, take all of their grants, what the value would be to them for that, and then we recalculate based off of their peers, a cohort analysis of what's normal, and recast what's normal, so you can see, finally, you have that guy from 3 years ago who took low cash and a lot of equity, and the person who started 6 months later that took less equity and more cash, and you can actually compare them to each other for the first time. We do this throughout our entire product. You'll see equity-adjusted calculations throughout the entire product. Who's on the high and low side? Fun fact, people on the high side are there for 2 reasons. They negotiate really well, or they came in through an acquisition, especially when you look at stock grants that are outsized. So we often will see a ratio that'll have someone with 3 or 4 or 5 times the peer compa, because they came in through an acquisition versus coming in through a straight hire, direct hire. Let's see other stuff. Let's skip this one. Let's go to the next one. We do a bunch of distributions to help you make sense of this data as well. So in this case, we're showing you, am I paying new employees the same? We're showing it by tenure. I will do what every customer does. They go, oh, let's look at engineering. So we scroll down in engineering, and I can show you now, if you hover over each one, you can see more information about them. This is just the straight cash compa, but if I do an equity adjustment, I'll show and map on the screen what's happening with the equity adjustment when you account for their stock. And usually what happens in companies is you have engineers that are down here, but when you account for equity, they pop way to the top, right? They've been with the company a long time. They have a lot of stock options. They got them at an early strike price. We also do split by function. We do splits by gender, ethnicity, and intersectionality, so that you can dig in and start to see what's going on inside your company in a way that you couldn't do it before. So in particular, with people who are in underrepresented groups, they tend to be distributed in a bunch of different organizations inside your company. So it can be really difficult to see those patterns, because there just aren't that many people together to see the pattern. We bring all of that up so that the company can understand if they have these patterns throughout the organization. Ethnicity we get from, all of this is self-declared inside the HRIS system. We aren't guessing, we aren't going off of names or anything like that. And then intersectionality lets us pick 2 subpopulations. In this case, I will say women of color and women not of color, and be able to see what the trends and distributions look like there. The last thing I'm going to show you is the stuff we do around equity. Because in tech companies in particular, stock is a big part of compensation and how we retain our best employees. This can be a problem because there are really no good tools to give you any heads up on when people are going to start running out of equity, or when their equity value doesn't necessarily match up to what you think it should. So there are a couple things in here. We have our general vesting progress, the managers who are going to have employees vesting out in the next chunk of time, and we let you pick what this chunk of time is, 90 days, 6 months, a year. This is here. I will tell the story to anyone who asks me later, specifically because of something that happened to me at Facebook that I would like no one to ever have to go through again. We show you where your equity allocation is, and then this is a heat map of where people are vesting out inside your organization. We use 75, 90, and 100% because that's what we learned from HR professionals, are the places where employees start looking at the calendar and thinking, is this the right time for me to leave? Those are the super basics of Compaas, and I love that I'm in New York because it meant I got to talk really fast and nobody gave me a hard time about it, so thank you all for that. I'm happy for questions. I have a lot more stuff, but I would be here all day, man.
Can somebody use this if they're not running the company? Like if you run a small group, whose permission do you need to integrate this with systems?
So we do a white glove onboarding to integrate with the systems because technically one of the hardest things about Compaas is getting all the data in, but from a user perspective, it's kind of the least interesting, so I don't really focus on it. I can lose the glasses now. What we also find is this is really focused today. All the stuff you just saw is focused for the person who's allowed to see everything. So that's going to be leadership, that's going to be the head of HR. Head of total rewards, let's say, in a larger organization. But we worked with some companies to build sub-permissions, say for HRBP with who they're supporting. And we also have a report in here, and was I clever enough to leave it up? I was, for somebody to actually sit down with the head of operations, let's say, and go, hey, here's what's going on with your org, here's how everything looks for you. So everything gets filtered down.
I have a friend who was recently acquired, and so he's trying to manage a lot of these problems with a much bigger company, and my guess is he can't. The things you would need to make that work. I'm wondering how well that would work.
It depends on how integrated they are. We should talk later. We should talk later anyway. What else can I tell y'all?
Do you have it broken down so that if somebody doesn't have the level of authority to see all the data, that they can then just see stuff that would more trends and things like that rather than actual individual data?
We have a few things around that. We have a report that managers can use, and did I leave that up? Am I really? Oh, I am so clever today. We have a report that managers can use to get more information specifically about their employees. That's a big one close to my heart because I think managers just need to be better at comp. And that lets them understand, like, contextually what's going on with their employees. Companies are very highly variable in how communicative and open they want to be about their compensation strategy. We want to help companies who want to be more transparent and open take steps towards that, but it's unclear to me right now exactly what that lens would look like. So we're focusing at the top of the org level, which was the function report, and then at the manager level to get a better picture of their team and a better picture of their employees. And then we'll see. Sorry. Oh, 5 minutes? Or is that? Oh, you actually had a question.
Yeah. So you're here in New York, obviously, besides starts with a lot of corporates here. Assuming now you're a year in, congrats, beta. When you talk to corporates, if so, what have been both positive and negative surprises to top conversations with them as you share your vision for the platform?
Oh, let me make sure I understand that question. So we're talking about companies that maybe don't use stock as a major part of their comp, or generally, because we have customers in New York. Yes, I love them. I think that it is fascinating to see the difference regionally between how stock in particular is used for a part of total comp. Like San Francisco and the Bay Area do it one way, New York does it a different way, Seattle is different, Seattle and Portland are very different from each other, and LA, totally different. They just don't look anything like each other. So when we're looking at trends on what's normal, we want to always map against what's normal for the org. We are very interested in understanding where companies' pain points are around compensation, around all kinds of company stages. And we're finding that, especially in large corporates, they may have a stock incentive program, but they haven't thought a lot about how that, like ESPP or whatever, is going to turn into something that they're going to need to care about in the future. One thing that I would say that I think New York companies, maybe just our customers, but New York companies seem to have caught on to a lot faster, is that when you think about things like intersectional pay equity inside a company, there is so much more going on than just cash and more than just incentive. And they're starting to think about what do regular bonuses look like, refreshers look like, things around stock equity. Those things all matter, and I feel like New York might be ahead of the curve on that one a little. I'm biased, but I still think so. Yeah.
So this is amazing in terms of creating transparency. Do you guys have a perspective on recommendations? Like, to your point of compensation is culture, like, do you see the product going in that way where you're proactively like, oh, I actually, based upon our data, we see that satisfaction is better when you have larger amounts of equity or larger amounts of cash?
Two things. One, we find that generally being more consistent and communicative is more of a happiness builder inside companies than more cash or more stock, which is an interesting trend. We do provide company-specific recommendations on all of our graphs as we find them, and we ask the customers to give us feedback and say, was this useful to you? So we can make more like that. So for example, we'll say things like, if you are a large corporate and you have zones where employees are in different regions and you have different targets, if you have different patterns, like the version we have is like, we have a demo company where all the Canadian employees are grossly underpaid to see what that looks like. And not real. not a real company. But what, in those cases, what we're trying to do is present to the company where they may have some regional differences, and we don't just surface that inside the graph itself, we also provide insights at the top of the pages where we find that data. Sir.
So, there's a lot of comparative data that you show. What's the source of that data?
We are not building yet market data. What we find is that the companies that we work with have already put a lot of love and care and attention into multi-sourcing how they're building their target bands and ranges. They're looking at big market data organizations, the surveys, they're asking their recruiters, who are a great source of that. They're looking at the last 3 guys they couldn't hire, and they're looking at how much the competition is paying, and they know. And then they're blending that all together to create that perfect what they want their targets to be. We ask companies where they want to be, and then we help them see where they are compared to their goals. We can show them things like, hey, heads up, it looks like your targets are falling behind because you keep hiring people at the top or above. And so we give them that feedback, but we don't make recommendations on exactly what their targets should be. I'm not saying never, I'm just saying now. I think that was my last question. Thank you so much, y'all.